The Hajj Qasem is an Iranian-made ballistic missile that was first unveiled to the public in October 2019. The Hajj Qasem missile is capable of carrying a nuclear warhead and is believed to be Iran's most powerful missile to date. It has a reported range of 2,000 kilometers, or 1,240 miles, and a top-over attack capability against targets. There is not much known about this missile since it hasn't really been used in combat, and it's fairly new in terms of missiles go. However, we do have some information on it from various sources, including its designer, Saeed Jafari, who gave a speech in October 2021 on the missile's capabilities and design. So in this video, I will go over what we know so far about the specifications of the Hajj Qasem missile. Let's get into it. Starting off with the name, Haqqani missile is named after Sayyid Hajj Qasem Soleimani, who is an important figure in Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and was responsible for expanding Iran's influence in the Middle East. He played a significant role in the Syrian civil war and the Yemeni conflict, and was eventually assassinated in a U.S. drone strike in January 2020. Next, let's move on to the type, which is a liquid-fueled medium-range, intermediate-range ballistic missile. It's considered a medium-range missile because it has a range between 1,000 to 3,000 kilometers, and it's solid propellant-based, which means the fuel is stored in solid form and then mixed with an oxidizer just before ignition. This makes it easier to store and transport the missile, since it does require cryogenic temperatures to keep the fuel in a liquid state, like what you would see with other liquid-fueled missiles. It also makes it easier to move around and set up in the field, and doesn't require a lot of maintenance. The downside is that once launched, it can't be stopped or redirected like a liquid-fueled rocket could. Then comes the range, which is between 1,700 to 2,000 kilometers, depending on the source. The missile's range refers to the maximum distance it can travel before impacting the ground. The Hajj Qasem has a range that falls in between the short range, which is under 1,000 kilometers, and the long range, which is over 5,000 kilometers. The reported range of 2,000 kilometers would make the entire Arabian Peninsula, including Mecca and Medina, reachable from Iran. And if it has a range of at least 1,700 kilometers, then Israel would also be within striking distance. For perspective, if you were to take the Strait of Hormuz, where Iranian oil tankers frequently pass through, if a missile was fired from either side of the strait, it would need a range of about 150 kilometers to hit the opposite side. So 1,700 kilometers is quite a bit more than what would be needed for this scenario. Also, there are different ways of measuring the range of a missile. One way is the maximum range, which is the furthest the missile could ever travel under perfect conditions. Another way is the operational range, which is the distance the missile can travel while still being effective. It can't be assumed that every missile will always be launched from ideal conditions, or that every target will be directly accessible without any obstacles in the way. So the operational range may be less than the maximum range. But since there isn't any information available on the operational range of the Haqqani missile, we'll just have to work with the maximum range figures for now. Moving on to speed, the missile is said to have a top-over attack method. This is where the missile flies above the target and detonates downward, which can increase the damage caused by the explosion. It's often used when attacking heavily protected targets, such as bunkers or hardened shelters, because the explosion is more likely to occur inside the target, causing more casualties and damage. In order to perform a top-over attack, the missile would need to have a high enough trajectory to go above the target and then come down on it. The exact trajectory would depend on the target and other factors, but it's safe to assume that it's more complex than just going straight up and down. The missile likely uses a combination of different flight paths and maneuvers to evade any potential air defenses. In terms of weight and dimensions, the missile is about 11 meters long and has a diameter of 2.4 meters. It weighs about 54 tons in total, and the payload weighs approximately 900 kilograms. The payload is what's carried by the missile, and in the case of the Haqqani missile, it's believed to be a nuclear warhead. Now, the warhead itself may not weigh 900 kilograms. That might just be the total weight of the payload section, which could also include things like the guidance system. But it's safe to say that the nuclear device probably makes up the majority of that weight. The 900 kilograms warhead weight is based on claims made by the Iranian designer, but there's no independent verification of these claims. However, it seems plausible considering the size and capabilities of the missile. Now moving on to the range and guidance, very little is known about this aspect of the missile, but it's believed to use inertial guidance, which is a self-contained navigation system that uses things like gyroscopes and accelerometers to calculate the missile's position and trajectory. This allows the missile to navigate and strike its target without needing external signals or data links. There are 3 stages of inertial guidance, which are called the guidance, mid-course, and terminal phase. Each phase uses a different set of instruments and algorithms to control the missile's flight path. The missile likely uses a combination of inertial guidance and other methods such as GPS spoofing to navigate and strike its target. As for propulsion, it uses liquid rocket engines, and the number of engines and their layout is unknown. However, since it's a solid propellant missile, each engine probably has multiple nozzles to help direct the missile. Solid propellant rockets have individual nozzles for each grain of propellant, which helps to improve the efficiency and control of the engine. The number of nozzles per engine would depend on the size and design of the grain, but it's likely that there are multiple nozzles per engine on the Hajj missile. The launch platform is another interesting aspect of the missile. It can be launched from both land and sea, which gives Iran more flexibility in terms of where it can fire the missile from. The land version is mounted on a truck and is mobile, which means it can move around and change locations easily. This makes it harder for other militaries to track and target the missile. And it also allows Iran to respond quickly to any perceived threats. The sea-based version is launched from a submarine, which provides an added layer of concealment and makes it harder to detect and intercept the missile. Submarines are designed to operate underwater, which means they can hide their position and approach their target undetected. This can give Iran a significant advantage when launching a strike. However, launching a missile from a submarine is more complex than just driving up in a truck and firing it. The submarine needs to be in a certain location relative to the target, and it also needs to be able to surface without being detected in order to launch the missile. This requires a lot of planning and coordination, but it also provides a more secure and effective way to launch the missile. Finally, we have the production status, which is still in development. Even though it was first unveiled in 2019, it's believed that production is still ongoing, and that the missile is not yet fully operational. This is not unusual for new weapon systems, as it often takes time to work out any kinks in the design and to build up a reliable supply chain. So there you have it. Those are the specifications of the Hajj Qasem missile based on the information available. Like I said, it's a relatively new missile, and not much is known about it. So some of this information may be inaccurate or incomplete. As more information becomes available, it will be added to the video. If you found the video helpful, please leave a like and subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching.